Today, we're going to talk about how to stop cravings, which will allow you to lose weight. 3 unconventional methods that will absolutely work. Why? Because I've tested them myself. So, hi, if you're new to my channel or new to wherever you're finding me, welcome. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis. I am a board certified family and lifestyle medicine physician and have been helping people lose weight and get healthier, reverse diabetes, reverse that high cholesterol, hypertension through lifestyle interventions. And the beautiful thing is you're trained in traditional medicine, but you also have this amazing tool set about nutrition and exercise, stress reduction, all of that great stuff. So welcome if you're new, but let's jump right in. First of all, when we think about cravings, right, they feel like they overtake us. And sometimes they get so strong and so big, you almost become fearful of them, right? That there's this little voice in your head that just won't stop until you give in. It's kind of like the 2-year-old that has a tantrum and you give them a lollipop and they stop, but then they come back bigger and meaner, wanting the same thing over and over. So let's talk a little bit about what that craving is. So I'm going to give you a little bit of very quickly some education on what actually causes a behavior. There's 3 elements that are actually very important for a behavior to happen. And then we'll dive into why these 3 methods work really, really well. So you may be familiar with BJ Fogg. If you haven't, check out his book, Tiny Habits, an amazing book. He's a behavioral scientist from Stanford, and I've taken some classes from him, and it's been absolutely phenomenal to learn about behavior. So he has this thing called the Fogg behavior model, and there's 3 things that are required for a behavior to happen at any point. You need a prompt, motivation, and the ability to do it. A prompt or trigger is something you see, think, do, something makes you, oh yeah, I need to do that. 2 is the motivation, right? Sometimes you really want to do something, sometimes you don't. But most of the time, if you're going to do something, you need that motivation to be there to do it. Next is the ability to actually do the behavior that we're talking about. So let's say that it's a goofy one, but you'll remember it. You got to go to the bathroom. Well, there's a prompt. The bladder wall is expanding, saying, hey, I'm down here, I'm full. Number 2 is the motivation. Yeah, you have some strong motivation because it's very uncomfortable and, well, we don't want to make a scene. And 3 is the ability. You have the ability to go to the bathroom, hopefully somewhere close. That behavior, and you can think of any behavior and you will find that there's those 3 elements. Now, the cool thing about the 3 methods I'm about to dive into is we're really going to be talking about moving the one thing is called the ability, right? So we want to make something harder. If we don't want to do it, if you wanted to be able to do something, you make it easier. And there's some other elements you can play with the trigger and the prompts, and then the motivation. I don't even necessarily worry so much about motivation because it's a finicky friend. It comes and it goes as it pleases. Well, we're going to talk about the first one is an oral obstacle. You're like, what is that? Well, we're going to make the ability to eat harder. And why am I saying this? Well, as I have said in some other recent videos, I have these Invisaligns in to fix my bite because every time I was biting and I was actually cracking teeth, and not so much worried about, my teeth are pretty straight. I've had braces in the past, but when I was a kid, they pulled 4 molars. Well, not 4 molars, but 4 permanent teeth. And they said my mouth was too small for my big teeth. I wish I'd have left them in and just worked around them. But basically, now that's caused my teeth to shift. So I'm wearing these Invisalign. And I've been wearing them for about, 10 days or so. And I will tell you, it's very uncomfortable to have to take this thing out. I actually have this little hook device that I have to use to pull out the Invisalign. And because I can't eat or drink anything other than water with these things in. And so that is literally stopping me in my tracks. So if I have, let's say, the sensation or the craving to go eat something, I have to remove the Invisalign and the saliva stream that follows and actually work to go eat. And by that time, I'm sitting here going, is it actually worth the effort to take these things out and go eat? And many times what I'm finding is no, and it passes. And I'm like, wow, I wasn't even actually hungry. And I will tell you, it has made a tremendous difference on just even me being aware of how often maybe I was snacking or eating. And luckily I'm eating a whole food plant-based diet. I mean, I'm snacking on apple or a banana, but was I actually even hungry? Maybe I was, stressed or bored or whatever. But again, just thought that was an interesting thing, an oral obstacle. They do make other type of things that people can buy online to straighten teeth or whatever, but I'm just throwing that out there. It's just been an interesting experience of mine recently. It is unconventional, but it is absolutely working. Number two is a little bit different. I've used this a lot with patients, but I've absolutely used it for other things as well. And that really is, think about the post-it note power, right? So remember, there is a behavior, there's a habit, right? So we get a trigger. Remember, I said there's a trigger or a prompt to do a particular behavior. Now we build this habit around it. So when you have a trigger or a habit loop, let's say you have a trigger, then you do the behavior, let's say it's the eating, and there's a reward. Now the reward factor is very interesting. So when you read about, changing our habits and getting better, like, this is how you stop a habit, you substitute or you remove the trigger or you make it really hard for yourself or sign this contract. There's none of this. That's not a long-term solution because that habit loop is still there. That's why if we don't actually dissolve the real habit, if we don't disintegrate the habit, allow it to just go away because we haven't gotten rid of the reward. That is why that habit loop will sit there, and you'll see it show up when someone's really stressed, like they've done well for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then suddenly they're like, I wasn't prepared and I'm so hungry. This one time, let me have that donut. And then it just starts the cycle, right? But if you remove the reward, and it's not a like, I'm willpower to it. There's something more subtle to it, but we'll get to that in a second. If you remove the reward, which is why the habit was built to it to begin with, it literally will dissolve. And I'll share a quick story to illustrate this, and then I'll talk about my method. There was a gentleman I had when I was in Colorado that had smoked multiple packs of cigarettes per day for 40 years. And I had tried everything in my power as a doctor to say, hey, you need to stop smoking. It's not good for your lungs. You could COPD, you could emphysema, lung cancer, it costs a lot of money. You don't smell good. You're just, blah, blah, blah. None of that worked. He goes, Dr. Marbus, I just like to smoke. And I'm like, I check off the list. I can't help everyone, but at least I tried. Well, what was interesting, he came into me one day and he said, well, Dr. Marbus, I stopped smoking. I was like, really? What happened? Because it was absolutely nothing I said or did. He goes, well, I was sitting in my recliner and I was smoking, and my granddaughter came up to me, who was about 8 at the time, and she was crying. And I said, she's crying? She goes, yeah. He goes, she said to me, Pop, I don't want you to die. And he looked at her and said, darling, I'm not going to die. And he actually said, darling. He said, darling, I'm not going to die. She goes, yes, you will, because I learned at school that people who smoke die, and you smoke, that means you're going to die, and I don't want you to die. He said instantly, the desire to smoke went away. He walked away from smoking after multiple packs a day for 40 years. Nicotine is one of the hardest things to stop. But what has happened was he understood whatever reward he was getting. He became completely aware that that was causing more pain. And the pain that he was causing with the smoking to his granddaughter was way, way more important to him than the reward he was getting physically or whatever with the nicotine and that smoking that he had done for 40 years. So how do we do this ourselves? Well, one thing is, remember, that's kind of this physical barrier about eating. We need to do a stop in space, right? So we need to halt the craving and then give ourselves times and space, right? So we put space and time between the craving and the action. And what this allows us to do is go from being mindless to mindful, right? So we're disengaging what I call the Lizzie lizard brain, the primitive brain, the caveman brain, and we're engaging our frontal lobe that has evolved to help us navigate this crazy world in our thinking brain, right? That we're bringing bringing the thinking brain back online. So we're becoming mindful. That's a better way to describe it. And how do you do this? Well, those little things called Post-it notes. You stick them on whatever is triggering you, right? And there's a few things what you want to do. What this is, if you put it on, let's say, the cabinet where, let's say, there's Girl Scout cookies. Yeah, that's mine. You put them on there and it's big and red, and you can use a stop sign, use whatever you need. You stick it on there and you say stop. And the first thing you want to say is breathe. And the reason you want to say breathe is because now that breathe is called an observe about something else if you're focused on your breath, right? So just breathe in, hold it, breathe out. Maybe do that 2 times, okay? 2, 3 times. That pulls you away from the craving speaking to you and the attention of the food to your breath. It centers you and puts you in the present moment. Next, you want to remember your why. You want to remember the why you stuck it on there, right? Is it because you want to be able to travel and or not be in pain? You want your blood sugars to improve. You want to look good for your son or daughter's wedding. All of these whys. Remember your why. You could even put the why on the stop sign, right? You could write that down. You can even write these steps. Next is you really want to think about the craving as a separate entity, right? You can name it. Like I said, Lizzie Lizard Brain is the name of anything that I don't particularly like, the thoughts, the emotions. I'm like, oh, Lizzie Lizard's back. You can call her whatever. And I apologize to anyone named Lizzie or Elizabeth. It's just, it rhymes with Lizard Brain. And well, there is that. So you want to thank them for being, because the more you fight it, you've heard the saying, whatever you resist persist, is absolutely true. So if we just think it and welcome it, we turn to the craving. Don't be afraid. It's not going to bite you. And just say, yeah, thank you for coming. And what are you thanking it for? You're saying, thank you for making me mindful. You are now going to use those cravings as your tool for building your mindful muscle. And remember, bringing the mindful brain online is the key to start to disintegrate the reward. Now let's start working and chipping away at the reward. What do you do here? Well, you're going to start investigating. You're going to start asking it questions, getting in touch with your body. Am I actually hungry? Maybe not. Well, maybe I am. Maybe my stomach's growling. The answers are fine. You're just investigating. You're giving yourself time and space between the craving that's crusting, but it will subside, guys. Just give it a chance. And next, just like, how will I feel if I eat this? Right? How will I feel if I drink this? How will I feel if I continue to engage in whatever the behavior is? Will this bring me closer or further away from my why? Okay. Next is, if I am hungry, if your stomach's gurgling, is there a healthier alternative available for me to eat right now instead of this thing? That's an option. Next, you want to end whatever and you can keep going. You can keep asking all those questions. Those are just a few that are really get to the core of the reward. But end in gratitude, because if you end in gratitude, it's really hard to walk in fear or stress or whatever. Things just shift in your body, and you will find more likely than not, you will be able to walk away. But I'm not done yet. But I would say, just say you're grateful for this mindful moment, right? Because you're building your mindful muscle. That's all you have to be grateful for. You don't need to be grateful for anything else. And then you decide what to do. Now, if you decide to consume whatever it is, that's fine. Do not judge yourself, but do take the option to understand and maybe observe yourself as you're eating it. It's like, how am I feeling about this? Do I want to continue? Maybe you take one bite and you set it aside. Or maybe you walk away and say, wow, actually, I feel okay about this. The craving has passed. I think that's really, really powerful. And I really want you to, if there's anything you get from this video, is to understand that the right action will emerge from stillness. The right action will come from your mindful brain, your mindful mind. And if you give it a chance to sit in stillness and allow you to decide what you truly want, your inner being really, really wants, that's where you will see change. And like I said, it may take some time. So maybe you do this for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it's just gets easier and easier and easier. And before you know it, you'll probably walk away from that craving because that reward has disintegrated. The investigating part is making the reward less interesting, right? The brain's going, maybe this isn't so rewardful after all, because I'm asking questions. A lot of my answers are maybe negative, right? And so that is really interesting. So let me get on to the third one. 1 is the oral obstacle. 2 was the post-it power. And next is, let's just do some humor personification of the craving. This kind of gets to my Lizzie Lizard brain. I need you to name the craving. I like humor, or I attempt to be humorous. Maybe I'm not funny. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys. Come up with whatever it is, bad dad jokes. And you may think these are what these are, but I want you to think about the craving as you're coming up. Maybe you don't have time to go through that whole mindfulness exercise, right? Try this instead. Maybe you're busy, or this may be also if you find yourself spiraling into worry or other anxiety. That tends to be more my default mode. Um, Talk to it, right? So when we talk about the food craving, how about I'm going to give you 5 humorous little puns. Forgive me if you don't like these, but this is what it is. Oh, hi there, Craving, Lizzie, whatever. I see you've decided to drop by uninvited again. Sorry, but I'm a strict only when I really need it policy today. Maybe try next year. Padoomch. Okay, next. 2. Hello, Lizzie. My old frenemy, friend and enemy. Anyway, are you back to ruin my plans again? Well, joke's on you. I'm remembering my why, and I have a busy schedule, so you'll just have to wait in line. 3. Oh, Craving, you sly little devil. Are you back to ruin my plans again? Well, joke's on you. Sorry. Um, oh, Craving, you sly little devil, trying to seduce me with promises of instant satisfaction. Nice try, but I'm on to your tricks. Go bother someone else for a while. Next is, hey, Craving, didn't you get the memo? We're social distancing. So why don't you stay 6 feet away from me and my kitchen for just a little bit? And the last one, oh, look who it is, Craving. You're like a bad Netflix show, tempting at first, but I know I'll regret it later. Time to change the channel. So anyway, goofy, I know. But make up your own. Take those. I don't care. Whatever works for you. But I thought I would share those things with you. And what I've seen really, it just empowers you versus you feel helpless, right? And the whole point of your weight loss journey is, yes, it is calories and movement and all that, but honestly, more importantly is understanding your mind, and that you are in control. The deeper you, the amazing you, the spiritual you, the whatever you want to be, it is that thing. You're not your thoughts. You're not these emotions that just arise and you feel helpless. You're the observer of those things. And so let's go build our mindful muscle, guys. And as always, remember, the right answer will come from stillness. And I'm sending you gratitude and thankful for being here with me today. Love, joy, and peace and healing, because all of us need a little bit more of that in our world. So have a good day, everyone.